Okay, yeah, we're good to go.
All right.
So
let's get this show
finally
off the ground.
try not to shake the earth too much.
Your life-shattering revelations.
With my phone.
You don't want to talk
phone
about the
shattering.
new NASA, discovery. Like this is more important. The fact that there may be
I
other.
think Sam would find that to be old news. Like happened yesterday, so.
Boring.
All right, ready?
Yeah, ready.
All right. Let's give these guys.
Well, these guys are going on for like.
Where are we looking?
5
We're looking
minutes,
at this, just like that.
Looking at
I
Boris.
apologize to the people
It'll
that
catch
are being,
everything.
Just look at the table. Don't stare at the camera. Like don't be like amateur
Alright, ready?
actors. Like.
All right, guys. Take it away.
Okay, yeah. So, Sam, do you want to do some introductory speech to this, or?
Hi, we're chocolate casting, pod tasting, chocolate pod tasting.
Yeah,
With
just
Boris.
give up with that one. It's going nowhere. Yeah.
It's been an inauspicious start to the podcast today, Boris.
Yeah, and this
over
is
to you.
like a promotion of the chocolate tasting that we're launching with Paris in Person private tours, and we're gonna give you a little taste of what it looks like. Of course, the actual chocolate tasting is more complex, more in detail. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna actually taste what we have with an expert panel and some third-party people there for objective evaluation. So we have Tom Clark. Would you like to say a couple words about yourself, Tom?
Hello, it's a pleasure to be on this very noble podcast. Been wanting to participate for a couple of weeks now. I'm Tom from Coutume Cafe in Paris. We're a specialty coffee roastery and coffee shop. And we often spend our days tasting single origin coffees. So I thought if I could be of service to this cause, why
No, you didn't. Just invited you around on Friday afternoon.
slash one some free wine and cider.
And some free chocolate.
Yeah, we'll take
Okay,
it
so Anthony, from what we understand, you were a chef once, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, my name is Anthony White, and I was a chef in a Relais Chateau in Sydney for about 10 years. And now I'm making paintings, making visual art. Here in
okay,
Paris.
nice. So
And
that's
Anthony, you're a friend of the podcast. You've been on.
I have.
You've
I'm
shared
a
your BS with
frequent
us
flyer.
previously.
especially Sam's BS, yeah.
This is actually this is one of your paintings in the background.
Yeah, so
Duck down.
some free advertising of Anthony's
Can anyone see
paintings
that?
as well.
I think NASA maybe discovered that 2 days ago.
Hang on a sec. There we are.
Wow.
Great shot, Sam
Yeah,
Davies.
thanks.
That's definitely going to be the highlight of the podcast. And we have
Exactly.
Emma. Emma, you are the objective third party to this chocolate tasting.
Yep,
So
we can leave it at that.
okay, let's leave it at that. This is our mysterious guest Emma. Yeah, here for the first time, possibly not the last. Okay.
But possibly also the last. And so, Boris, what got you into chocolate tasting? Because this is a new avenue for Paris in Person tours.
Well,
What's
not
the
quite.
background?
Actually, back in the day, we're talking like 7 years ago, my first idea about giving tours of Paris was the chocolate tasting. That's how I started. So my first idea was to bring French chocolate to the public eye, because when people come to Paris and they come to France, they mostly think about wine and cheese, because that's like very well known, as French gourmandise. They think about macaroons, they think about pastries. But French chocolate, that might be the best aspect of French gourmandise scene, somehow is left behind, right? So I had an opportunity of tasting different chocolates, finding out how great they are, and then I wanted to share that with the world, right?
But what was good about your opportunity? Because I think everyone listening would say that they've once upon a time had an opportunity to taste chocolate. So what are we actually talking about in terms of the chocolate?
Well, we're
tasting?
talking specifically dark chocolates, right? So if you want a quality chocolate that will always be high percentage of cocoa, it will have no other ingredients. It wouldn't have like any milk or hazelnuts or like any other things like marzipan people tend to add. So it's just going to be like pure chocolate, where you try to discern the taste and the quality of the cocoa bean that's involved. So much like with coffee production, where Tom's expertise will prove invaluable, or with wine production, you have single origin chocolate bars, where you have cocoa coming from a certain plantation, and then
They
it
only come
bears...
from one shop.
Exactly, as well, yeah.
Single.
Single shop bar. And much like with coffee, you have this practice that's called from bean to bar. Now, I'm not sure how that would be called in coffee world.
From bean to cup.
From bean to cup.
Oh, wow, you guys.
Yeah, so
innovators.
it's basically...
I'm a B cup, but
yeah.
Do you have
several cup person?
Do you have chocolate wankers in the industry as
Of course, we only have chocolate wankers. Much like in the coffee industry, it's nothing but.
Yeah.
Nothing but hipsters and snobs, yeah. But that's our key audience, like that's what we focus on.
Welcome.
Welcome everyone involved. So it's like chocolates that have noble ingredients, right? So you can see here on this Michel Cluzel tablet, they say noble ingredients. So like it's a way of recognizing a good chocolate tablet, right? Like you look at the ingredients.
Only 5% preservatives.
Only 5% monosodium.
I'm so thirsty after drinking this chocolate.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, like, really, you should let the taste speak for itself. But what's really important, I feel, you know, when we're taking these things for tasting, is the very narrative, right? So you must approach this as if it's a good thing already, and that kind of heightens your expectations.
I'm glad it's not one of those things you have to do. The best thing is the company you do it in. I'm glad it's not one of those things, because it would have struck out on that.
Struck out right away. No, well, the thing is, like, you're supposed to approach it as something that is to be enjoyed. So it's not just something for your sweet tooth. It's not just something that you want to eat when you feel like you're eating something sweet. Like, you approach it with certain respect, right? So you open up your palate, you open up your taste, you think about it, you invest yourself in it, right? That's the important part.
What is the technique to tasting chocolate beyond just chewing? Which
Well,
I understand.
It's very difficult, Tom, when you
For
open your mouth.
example, an aroma, you smell an aroma,
Well,
so you need to pulverize the
Funny you should say that chewing is exactly the thing you don't do when you
Interesting.
when you approach the chocolate tasting, because it's supposed to melt on your tongue, right? So you're supposed to only take one bite to feel the snap of it, but then you let it melt, because then that way you let your palate and your tongue and your cheeks participate in the experience. So
and the
when you chew it,
putrefaction and-
exactly, yeah. So when you chew it, you lose a lot of that. Like you don't let it, all the flavors develop and evolve. Now it's a very sensual experience, meaning that it starts with your fingers, right? You're supposed to feel the chocolate first. As ridiculous as it may sound.
Ask it its name first.
Exactly.
Tell
You
her-
do what you want with it afterwards. So, when the camera shuts down, you have your way with it, so not to worry. But the thing is, like, as I said, it's a sensual experience, meaning it starts with your fingers. You're supposed to warm it up with your fingers first, because cocoa reacts to body heat, right? And it opens up some of its flavors. So you should look at it, right? It's supposed to involve all your senses, not only your palate. It's supposed to involve your touch, your sight, your smell. Now, as you know from coffee, right, smell is, 65% of the taste? If
More,
not
I don't
more.
know percentage-wise, but I know that we get up to 800 molecular compounds aromatically, so it's incredibly complex.
So,
It definitely sounds complex, Tom, but I've got absolutely nothing to compare that with, so I have no idea.
Your apartment has about 3,
so what
and
you
2 of
do-
them are B and O. So,
So what you do is, like, you snap the chocolate first to inspect its visual. Yeah, just go on.
B-O.
Sam, try not to troll your own podcast. Like, seriously.
Sorry.
keep the focus, man.
Yeah, like keeping it
back.
very meta.
I'm
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. So yeah, they said snap it.
Yeah.
You know, feel it with your fingers.
you listen
Here
to
you go.
the
Ladies first.
Oh, ladies first. Sorry, yeah. I was thinking counterclockwise, but yeah. Then take
Oh,
this.
thank you very much.
My pleasure. And then. Now, this is not me being stingy, but I actually have a lot of chocolates to go through.
Yeah,
This
I did
actually has to
notice
last.
that
This
there
has to
wasn't
last 4 tour groups.
There was a large narrative going
Yeah,
on.
there's like 10
Like,
bars
Hardly
to go
Jesus
through.
dividing the loaves, is it, mate?
It's gonna be a lot more chocolate. So the way you do it, okay, so after having
So when do we like put on our pants?
that's the focus.
Oh, right, sorry.
That's the key aspect of it, yeah.
Back.
You never do that. So you just smell it first, right? Then after you've done that, you put it in your mouth, right?
Well, hang on a sec. What does, for the viewers who obviously can't benefit from smell-o-vision, what are you smelling, Tom? Should have washed my fingers.
I was getting a deep, almost blueberry smell from the The dry aroma, I guess you would describe it.
Okay, that's very good. What about you, Anthony? I'm going to start with you guys first.
Yeah,
because you're the
dry aroma. Yeah, definitely. Fruity sort of first impression.
Okay, that's good. What about you, Emma?
Red fruits, but I don't know if I'm just saying that because.
Oh, look, this is a very subjective experience.
It is subjective, of course.
So,
It depends on your
yeah.
experience, what you've eaten.
So let's say that there are always
Bars.
bars.
Palate already.
Exactly.
So there are always. Oh yeah, feel free to put it in your mouth. So you can have one bite and then you just let it melt. That's a very important part. So just let it melt.
One bite.
Just
It
one
does.
bite.
It melts incredibly easily, and you
that's
do
true.
feel the aromas just
Yeah.
kind of.
So the
Release
way
it.
we
Oh, yeah.
usually do this when we have people participate in tastings through the company is that I let people have their impressions first and then I tell them what it's supposed to feel like. So I'm not trying to influence their palate.
Keep it objective.
Yeah, keep it objective.
So what would you say for this chocolate? What would you?
Well, I'm gonna let you enjoy it first a bit, then I'll have your impressions. Then, what about you, Sam? Can you feel anything from
quite
our
dry.
alcohol burns?
No, I was going to say it's almost a little bit chalky.
I think it's because it's probably like when you have a proper espresso for your first time, you're not used to such a high cocoa content,
So
probably.
what's
So
the
it's probably the experience of not having it diluted with milk and sugar that automatically brings that dry idea.
Yeah,
I don't find it dry. I find it quite silky.
Yeah.
But it's true that if you've not had the habit of having high
I spent
cacao.
my afternoon eating Haribo candies and.
So you
Get out, you're off the podcast. Your palate's ruined.
Cast out.
Yeah,
Podcast
podcast
I'm still
out.
eating it.
You
I haven't wiped it on my
should
pants yet.
say the percentage of the.
Yeah, that one was
yeah.
65.
That's 65. Yeah. 'cause
And the origin?
The origin is Madagascar. Now, the thing is, the chocolate you tasted comes from Madagascar. What makes it specifical and original is that Madagascar cocoa plants are in the jungle that's filled with citrus and with mango. So
Yes.
there is this certain tanginess to it, and there's like more acidic feel than you would have with these other chocolates.
There is actually a strong powered suggestion because I do, when you said mango, I did actually just then smell.
That's how much you
mango.
trust me, Sam.
Exactly.
That makes me feel good. Yeah.
Well, the aftertaste is incredibly long. I mean, it's enduring and
Well,
the
when
acidity
we're-
is really
Lasted
very
longer than
fine.
this
It's
podcast.
definitely.
It will endure longer than your podcast.
Thanks, Tom.
They've only got 15 more to go.
Yeah, so the thing with these chocolates is like when you're doing a tasting, then you're comparing several different aspects. So one of the aspects is that you're trying to appreciate the different cocoa beans coming from different plantations, but you're also appreciating different producers. So you would have the same cocoa from the same plantation being treated by a different producer. So they would try to give it their own individual flair, and then you would see how they were treating the whole
Producers
thing
are just the
differently.
same everywhere, aren't they?
Not at all, Sam. Not at all. Yeah.
Across all
Hopefully, that's something you'll get to understand doing this podcast. Is that
Good
not
music.
all producers are the same. So
Tell
yeah,
it to
ladies
Kanye.
first. Here you go,
Thank you very much.
and then you guys. So yeah, it's a world of difference.
I think it's important for a amateur panel like ourselves when it comes to chocolate.
Speak for yourself, Tom.
To choose contrasting profiles. We often do that when we do our first coffee tasting. We choose quite contrasted profiles.
Yeah.
So,
So
the average
So you
consumer
can
can
tell the
easily pick
difference.
up on the.
Yeah, that's right. I know this chocolate very well,
Mhm.
actually, because this is the chocolate that we eat at our house
Oh,
all
really?
the time.
Wow, you have taste
And we
Anthony.
buy all across the range in all the chocolate that they make.
Mhm.
But I'm interested to see what else you have in the bag in terms of other brands.
Oh, we'll get to it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So this is Michel
Maybe a
Puzel.
cat in the bag as well.
Cadbury in the bag.
Some Cadbury's.
No, we don't have any Cadburys. Yeah. So these are all artisanal made. So from bean to bar policy. So it's basically what we were interrupted there. What bean to bar means is that the producer handles. Yes, Sam had something more relevant to add. So what it means is that the producer actually handles all of the stages of production of chocolate from the plantation to the actual bar. And that's something that very few chocolate producers can say they do, because in most cases they would buy the so-called couverture, so the basis of chocolate that is already 80% finished product, and then they would add some touches to it. But the really good ones, the expert ones, they handle all of the stages of production themselves, and they're trying to bring out the cocoa character through all of different stages of production. So through fermentation, through drying, through torrefaction through conchage, which is the production of chocolate, means mixing it and battering it like for a very long time. That's very important.
Do you have any of the milk?
No.
The milk, the milk one is actually very good. The flavor of it with this one, Michel Clusier, is really strong. It doesn't taste like any other milk chocolate that you've tasted.
Honestly, I've been familiar with Cluzel for more than 10 years. I never even tasted their milk chocolate.
It's really
because
good.
the whole
got
point.
two sorts. One about 67, I think. 60, yeah, it's quite high. The percentage is quite high. It's good.
That's delicious.
That was
So
really good.
that one came from Sao Tome, which is an island off the coast of Africa in the Atlantic Ocean, so west of Africa, and it's a volcanic soil island. So it has a very
Almost a spice note.
That's fruity.
yeah, it's much less fruity. It's more salty, more smoky. So it really comes from the volcanic soil. And yeah, as well. So it has a present of iodine because it's so close to the sea. So, you know, different than Madagascar. So you were tasting two different sides of Africa, east and west. So this one was actually proclaimed to be the best chocolate in the world back in 2007, if I'm not mistaken. And it comes from Saint Domingo. How do you say that in English? Saint Domingo?
Saint Domingo.
Saint Domingo.
Domingo, yeah. Yeah.
I believe.
So I will let you guys have your impressions first, then I will tell what it's supposed to taste like.
Solar mango.
Yeah.
How much is Michel Clusier paying you for this shout out?
You don't want to know. Yeah. 0.
It seems like a standard business transaction.
He's asked us not to tag him in the podcast if we can get his chocolate for free.
Yeah, they might start paying me something. I mean, but for the moment, not really. Yeah. So I'm just doing this pro bono. No, actually, I've chosen like all of the
So
chocolates.
no Clusier, like
No clues. Yeah. L. No, I'm doing this because I personally selected the chocolates I found best, you know, so...
Where is this one from?
San Domingo.
I don't know, mine has my ex-girlfriend's initials on it, so I don't know whether that's...
A good thing or bad. Yeah. Makes you feel nostalgic almost.
What's the percentage?
Percentage is 67. So these are slightly under the ideal percentage that is 70%. And so they have slightly more sugar than like ideal chocolate should have. But the thing with sugar is that it kills the cocoa taste up to a certain percent, but then up to another percent it kind of relieves it. So you'll see that when we start tasting the 100%, that you actually need the sugar because cocoa in itself is very bitter. It's very bitter and strong, and it can overpower your palate. So you actually need a certain percentage of sugar to open it up.
Is there an expert suggestion on what the best percentage is?
I would say 70% is generally accepted, although I personally prefer 85. But I like them to be on the more cocoa-y side. But you could say the general consensus is 70% is like a golden middle. Yeah. So.
Do you know how it used to be eaten, and was it always eaten with sugar, or was it?
Well, what really changed the most is, I think, the conching, which was invented by Lindt, and it was invented by accident when they left the chocolate mixing machine.
Left my keys.
Yeah, seriously, that's how it happened.
What was the process that they...
It's like mixing the chocolate.
What's the word?
Conching.
Conching.
So yeah, they would basically leave it overnight.
Is it a conscious decision that they made? What is an unconscious decision?
You're just putting in puns everywhere.
Peppering them in.
Well, it was unconscious decision because it was left on overnight by accident, and it made chocolate super smooth and creamy. Now, the way chocolate was made before the conching was accidentally found is that they would only use mixture of cocoa butter and powder and sugar, so you would actually have sugar crystals inside chocolate. It would be much more powdery, it would actually crumble. So the whole point of conching is homogenizing chocolate, making it creamy and silky.
Have you tried the Mexican chocolate?
Some of them, yes.
Sabara, things like that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, actually I have it.
Granular.
But if you want like the old-fashioned chocolate, they still make it in Sicily, in Italy. So like you can have it done by the 17th century recipe, and it's really crumbly and powdery. So
what, it originated in Sicily, or what?
No, that they still maintain the original recipe,
The
but
Italians will claim it as original.
Right.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, the Spaniards brought it to Europe, of course.
Mm.
From,
Yeah, that is actually interesting. What is a bit of the history of the cocoa?
Well, the history is that the
Bean, where
cocoa
did it-
bean was revered as sacred back in America, and they would not actually use it to make chocolate. They would use it as money.
Mm.
That was the first thing, and they would also use it to prepare.
The Aztec society. It was.
Yeah, it was also used to prepare ritual drinks. So they would pulverize cocoa, they would add cayenne pepper, water, some other things. It would be something you could consume during rituals, so it had really high value. The damn chocolate was known as food of the gods, right?
Sounds like a cleanse drink.
Yeah, perhaps. who knows?
Detox.
And then when it came to Europe, then they started experimenting with it, using it, for
Detox.
detox.
Right.
So yeah, now you could say that it came through.
Can't help myself.
Sam, what's going on in your phone there? It's
Oh,
yeah.
we got 10%. I might have to shut down the live podcast
No,
sometime
just
soon.
reframe it, put it on the table there, and
I'm enjoying this testing.
thank
What-
you, man.
We've got 10% left on my
No,
Facebook
well,
page.
put it on, hook it on, just change the frame, put it on your table and hook it up to,
I can't. I don't have the power. The power outlet has been used by the microphone. The new. But anyway, we'll just go on. We'll go on for another 5 minutes online, and then we might just.
What is this one?
this one actually comes from a different producer.
This can just be a
is,
taste test.
Yeah, this is
Oh.
Bona.
Which one's this? A new producer, is
A
it?
new producer, because Anthony was interested in. I just take the whole thing. So this is the oldest producer that I know of in France. This is Chocolat Bona. So this is again Madagascar, what you had now with Saint Domingo, and this is Madagascar that you can compare to Madagascar made by Michel Cluzel. Now Bona, I find, uses more cocoa powder, less cocoa butter.
You can
And
smell the
they're-
cocoa powder just.
Yeah, and their chocolate is more solid, more hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can
Michel
definitely feel
Cluzel is more silky, right?
Yeah.
The sensation is it's forming around all of my teeth.
You make it sound so sensual.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Mm.
We're getting a sponsorship.
I'm getting
Exactly
excited
that one.
just by listening.
Mm.
So this one has higher cocoa percentage, right? It's 75%. So you could say that most of these chocolates are 75. Yeah. So we'll have some pralus later. They're also mostly 75.
Oh, this one's got a great aftertaste.
Mm.
Well, I'm glad you guys feel that way. So,
And
but I haven't
Why?
seen my
What did we
favorite.
do to it?
That sounds like you're disappointed. That one says on there for biting, yeah?
Croquet.
Yeah.
No. So it's not necessarily biting. It just
It's
means
for the
that.
crunch. Because it's harder,
Ah.
I'm saying, yeah.
No,
You
all
said-
of these chocolates say pour croquer because it means that it's not for cooking. So it's
Oh,
like
yes,
for-
of
yeah.
course, yes.
That's funny because in English we usually, unless it's for eating, it says cooking chocolate, and you just assume that anything that it doesn't say cooking chocolate is for eating.
No, but they make a difference. So
forgot.
it's not like for cooking. This is like
Yes,
finer
yes.
things. So it's just for degustation in its own.
But
Do
cooking
you have
chocolate.
any
is what-
Valrhona?
No, the thing
I've
is,
actually got them in that bag.
I've got it.
How can you start rating it?
I should bought some, but it's very good. And
It is,
it's
but-
called cooking chocolate, but you can eat it too.
yeah,
It's very,
Well, Valrhona
very-
is the biggest importer and biggest producer of chocolate.
They're
So,
Belgian, aren't they?
oh no, they're French.
French.
Valrhona,
Yeah.
Valurona. like
Belgian,
that's.
yeah.
yeah.
So they produce most chocolate in France, and they're like this really industrial cereal producer. So most of the chocolate that enters France is done by Valrhona, and all of the couverture
Yeah.
that these other chocolate companies use come from Valrhona. So
Yeah.
basically, most of the pastry shops in Paris would use Valrhona.
That's right.
But these guys are like more artisanal, so
Of
they're like
course.
smaller productions and they handle their beans better, right? So Valrhona has this huge production, so it's pretty good, but it kind of loses a bit of the heart and a bit of the dedication because it's such a
It's
large.
their volume, yeah.
Yeah, because of the volume. Yeah.
And speaking of cooking, Anthony, as a chef, did you used to use chocolate in savory contexts? Did you,
yes.
not in Mexico, for example,
Not
mole
yet.
and
Yeah.
whatever.
Just particularly that
Yes.
sauce really mounted in at the end when you're
Here you go.
pureeing
Sorry,
everything.
crumbles.
What are
But
the,
not very often actually.
Is there any challenge of cooking with chocolates in a savoury context? Not eating it?
Well, yeah, of course not eating it, but I mean
That's the first step.
I mean, if you're putting it through a sauce or anything like that,
thank you.
you really want the sauce to be not split. you know, like if a sauce has body and you whisk it together, sauces have, you know, fat and liquid, fat and water. Any dressing, any sauce has that. So if you're making something that's hot, you have to keep it hot and to emulsify it properly so that when it hits the plate, it's together, right? So it's presented.
Oh, so it's the heat that emulsifies it.
No. You can have hot and cold emulsified sauces, right? Mayonnaise is a cold emulsified sauce, and béarnaise is a hot emulsified sauce. But like if you're using chocolate in a sauce, then you would want to make sure. I mean, the only one that I've done is the mole sauce, but that doesn't really matter that much because you've got so many other ingredients to bind it together. But if you're using chocolate, because it's quite unstable, that's why when you melt it in a cake, when you're making cakes, you melt it over a double boiler so that it doesn't split. So, you know, if it splits, then, you know, basically when you cook it, it sort of stays the same, right? It just raises up and then, but if it splits, it's terrible. It's like a disaster. So I'm just something to think about.
Okay, well, this one comes from Puerto Cabello. And
I might just cut the podcast off here to charge the battery a bit, but we'll come back shortly with some more exciting chocolate news.
All of these other phones are still rolling, so...
Follow, yes, exactly. And so you can follow Boris. If you're on this live feed, you can follow over to parisinperson.com.
yes.
And where else, if you want to do a quick podcast plug-in?
Well, our Facebook page that still has a live thing going on, so it's Paris in Person page on Facebook, and our Instagram, which is also named Paris in Person. So these are all going live.
The one person who's watching can. Oh, it's Nadia. Hello. How are you? Let's see you. Oh, anyway.
Your attention span is just a bit of a canary.
Hi, Nadia. Oh my God, my
Canary in a
cousin's
mine
just
shaft.
Yeah, canary in a fishbowl.
Where am I? What am I doing? Alright, I'm going to turn it off and we'll come back shortly. But you can join on the other channels.
Cheers.
Yeah, so this is
extremely
Venezuela, and Venezuelan cocoa is actually the most famous in the world, right? So it's their best product, and it's considered as best cocoa in the entire world because, amongst other things, it's protected. Cocoa plantations are protected by the surrounding jungles, and it has a really pure cocoa taste. So it's like this really, in most cases, Criollo, which is like this really delicate, gentle and very sensitive type of cocoa bean that is very prone to diseases, and it's very easy to succumb to a lot of plant diseases. So it works better in Venezuela. Now, what was your impression of the taste of the chocolate you just had?
I have to say it's getting hard to pick up the nuances. Palate saturates like
should you
Have a cleanser?
cleanse?
Yeah, you should. After like
With
2 or 3
with white wine?
Well, what would you...
With coffee.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, with
No.
wine you
No, definitely
cleanse
not
your
wine.
palate.
Wine's
Like,
hard.
Bread. I did buy some bread and some cheese.
yeah,
Yes,
but I mean,
bread,
you would drink
no,
water
not cheese.
or,
Not cheese? Oh,
or
no cheese.
even spit, right?
Yeah,
As a
in
form
coffee you
of-
would sometimes use a green apple. The acidity cleanses.
Well,
Wait.
apple juice is also used in chocolate tasting because
I
it's
do
supposed
actually have
to
some
be...
apple juice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But actually, when you're smelling coffee, when you've had too much, do you go and smell perfume?
No, that's I've had the joke from you, I believe.
Just getting their new audiences, you know.
You
No,
didn't run too well first
your
time.
your odorat, I don't know in English what do we say? Odorat, your
Smell?
smell.
Oh, you're so French these days.
I'm sorry, I'm not at all deliberately saying
Tom's
that.
gone native.
It's actually, you're not going to saturate your odorat very easily. It's once you start actually inhaling and
Once you
having
pop,
the physical
you can't stop.
tasting that you saturate. But you could smell, hundreds of coffees and more or less keep a clean mind. But once you start tasting, your saliva absorbs caffeine, and you probably have about 15-20 coffees that you could actively taste before you have to have a rest and go back the next day. We often do it in the morning when our palates basically virgin and we haven't.
Do you spit it out like wine?
We
Or?
do spit it out, absolutely.
Depends how bad it tastes. Right.
So Tom, would your coffee be spit out?
Well, we taste so many coffees each day.
80%.
So,
Now,
80%
well,
is
you
considered
could
a
use
good-
apple juice. I prefer sparkling water and
Oh.
bread, but apple juice is no. It was keep coming. in.
Champagne,
Back to get your butler, Gerald.
Exactly.
No, I think that bread and sparkling water are like more neutral because like you use bread to pick up all of the chocolate particles that are left in your pellet, and then
absorb
you
the
use
fats and
as well, yes, and then you use sparkling water to wash it down. But yeah, apple juice is also gonna work.
Cool.
no, I definitely found it very
Baileys.
suave, very silky. There was like a peak of like a strength that came in the middle, and then it sort of I would say almost like a winey, like a Merlot, kind of those tannins that I was picking up. Those
Oh,
red
that's
wine
very
tannins.
interesting. How about you guys? What did you feel?
On the last one?
Yep.
So, probably in the middle of the.
No.
Your head is taking up the.
I'm
Not that big.
lost on the last one actually.
I forget.
Apple juice or water, Boris?
Oh,
get
it's
some.
water, yeah.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
So,
I'm wondering which one of these is gonna be like.
This podcast partnership seems to be really working out.
hang on a sec.
Two phones broken in one.
That's just how much we value our podcast, right? Like,
Huh?
we're willing to break all the phones.
Where's the technical
Break
guy?
all the rules,
Yeah.
fashion, and you name it.
Yeah. So Venezuelan cocoa is supposed to have like smell of flowers, vanilla, and red fruit, forest fruit. So
On the last one.
yep, on the
Oh,
last one. Yeah. Okay. So the next that
I
we're
didn't pick up
gonna.
a lot of floral notes, to be honest.
I'm not
I didn't
picking
pick
up,
up any floral
I'm
notes.
not picking up much complexity with them, but I just don't have a finely tuned palate, obviously.
No, that's right. Oh no, I think
What's the
it's
name
what
of
you
this,
said about finding the end of the spectrum.
Mhm.
It's easier for novice with a novice palate to get the ends of the spectrum, but to get the nuance in between
Yeah.
is much more difficult, right?
I think here it's more texture and
Texture is important. This one tastes like apple juice.
Oh, that's very
Boom
good of you,
tish.
Sam. So
So how long do you intend Sam to be part of your podcast?
for another 2 sessions.
That's right.
Here you go.
As for the chocolate tasting, be a regular fixture.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
You guys are too cute.
Here you go.
Thank you.
So this one actually comes from Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire.
It's
And
actually one of their major exports.
Yep, exactly. So most of the world's cocoa is made in Ivory Coast. So this would be like your generic run-of-the-mill cocoa. It's also forastero, meaning that forastero. So out of 3 cocoa genomes, you have forastero, trinitario, and criollo. So criollo would be the most delicate one, the most difficult to cultivate, but the one with the most flavor.
Sorry, a what?
Criollo.
No, what is it? It's a type of
it's
what?
a
Cocoa
varietal.
genus, yeah. It's
Oh,
a-
right, all right.
yeah.
Okay.
So there would be Forastero, which is the most durable one, the easiest one to cultivate, but it had the least taste. And
Is
then,
this like an Arabica coffee?
yeah,
Or
Probably.
yeah, more like a Robusta actually.
Robusta,
like
sorry.
it's-
Mm.
It
Do
has
they,
that like, rough, rugged.
I'm sorry, I'm not being a wanker. What do you say?
Yes, you are, but
when you
please continue.
when you bind a plant to another root system, it's you
Yeah.
graft.
Grafting,
graft.
yeah, grafting, yeah.
And I do apologize. I'm not being a wanker. I've been here too long. I've lost my English. So do they graft onto
Yeah.
these root
So
systems?
Trinitario is like, as you say, a graft or
Oh.
a mixture of Forastero and Criollo, and it has like the best and the worst of both worlds. So it has the tenacity and the like harshness of Forastero, and it's supposed to have some of the flavors of Criollo.
Mm.
So this is Forastero, meaning that it's a really hard, simple chocolate bean. It's not supposed to have like a lot of flavor, but I thought it's good to include it in tasting, yeah, because just like your, you know,
It's a little dry to start with, but as it
Cocoa
melts,
base.
it's actually
Some kind of coconut notes.
oh, that's very interesting.
But what would you use that? That's for mass-produced chocolate then? And
Yeah,
just
80% of the world's chocolate is made from Forastero from the Ivory Coast. So,
80%.
yeah, so most of
Yeah,
like all
that's a lot.
chocolates that you eat, you know, that are of lesser quality, you know, like Milka, Nestle, Cadbury, they all come from
Whoa,
Ivory
whoa,
Coast.
whoa.
Hang on
You
there.
can send
Hang on.
your
You can taste it.
Legal claims to BorisInPerson.com. Any defamation suits.
Boris has a team of lawyers waiting.
Yeah, just
Exactly.
waiting.
And an aircraft.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are with the next one. This is Pralus. Now this is again Madagascar, third one that we're having, Criollo from Madagascar. Now what's interesting about Pralus is that they take the whole bean to bar business to next level. François Pralus, they're like a French producer.
Okay.
Yeah. So they actually have their own plantation in Madagascar. So this is like their own plantation, and they cultivate the cocos themselves. So it's like the next step of, you know, being chocolate snob and chocolate winker, as you would say, Tom. But they also have a very specific way of producing chocolate. As you will see, it's very different, both from Bonat and Cruzel. So different approach that yields a different result.
So actually, I noticed that you break the chocolate when it's still in the paper. Is that a technique, or is that just an
Not really.
hygiene, I
That's like
guess.
idiosyncrasy. Yeah.
But is there a way of breaking chocolate?
Well, Sam, that's only for the people who take the chocolate tasting. That's not reveal all of the secrets.
You've been warned.
Yeah, you've been warned. There's much more to this than you see. This is just a preview.
There can't be any less.
Certainly don't do the tasting for the company.
So, but no, the whole point is that you should snap ideally yourself and just feel the snap, because snaps are different. I see that dirty thought forming in your mind, Tom. Just
feel the snap.
Yeah, feel the snap. Yeah.
I didn't like that one so much.
No, why not?
More ferment, like a fermenter flavour.
Yeah. Bitter.
You,
It's
Emma?
bitter.
I like it.
Would you say that you like it the most?
I like the
dark and
first
bitter.
one the most, but this is my second favorite.
Oh,
The acidity is quite high as well. At the
Yeah.
back of the
It's
mouth.
the acidity.
Well, I think that's the thing with Pralus, is that they're really trying to elevate the taste of the cocoa as much as possible.
Yeah,
So
no, you feel that it's really...
Cruzel will try to make a
Brut.
good tasting chocolate,
Yeah.
and they would not try to expand on the taste of the cocoa bean itself. These will these would sacrifice the smoothness of the chocolate just so that the taste can come out
Yeah, that is
most.
rougher.
Okay.
And you will see the same thing, I think,
That's
with this
probably
one.
a similar approach to the way we want to roast coffee, to be honest. We want to bring out the terroir in all its glory, balanced, but less, comfortable, and we want each coffee to really express itself very fully. So I think I respect his approach. And I agree, like, it's like anything, you need to educate yourself, you need to taste, you need to think about what's happening.
Thank you.
We're not used to having such experiences from a day-to-day point of view, so it's a little bit disconcerting when you first have such an intense experience for any product.
Yeah, of course.
When you have an intense wine for the first time, you may not like it straight away because it's just mind-blowing. And
Is there hope for coffee consumers, Tom? I mean, have you noticed, not hijacking the conversation on coffee, but have you noticed in the 5-10 years you've been doing it that consumer palates have
completely.
advanced?
Oh yeah, no, we began with very accessible profiles because we saw straight away that acidity, floral notes would be straight away not appreciated. Now at my bar in the 7th on Rue de Babylone, we have a very eclectic crowd from coffee amateurs to people off the street, and we serve quite complex profiles.
Sound like that eclectic, from coffee amateurs to people off the street.
Well, as in we have people that just come in randomly
Bottom
from
percentile.
the street, and we also have people that come there for the experience, and we keep the profiles and the coffees the same no matter what, and the average public enjoys complexity to an extent, and acidity is not going to be straight away a negative for them. They're more open-minded for sure.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about this one? This one again is Sao Tome.
I found it a bit, I don't want to, maybe sour. I think what I'm really noticing is that I really lack the
It's more
lack the words to describe what it is I'm tasting.
I get almost a smoky.
Zero by
It
category.
tastes more earthy.
I get a whiskey smoke, like peat.
Exactly.
Peaty.
Yeah.
Mm.
Tom, you do have
alright,
a palate after all.
There are elevated palettes out there.
Yeah.
It stopped just when it got to the shirt. Taste for shirts though, just.
His taste kind of stops here, yeah.
Emma, from a fashion perspective, is there anything wrong with
Let's
Boris's...
not hijack this podcast that is about chocolate.
Just because
yeah.
your hips are 32 doesn't mean you need to wear a 32 waist. I wouldn't know being a 36, but
It's your IQ, Tom.
no, but I really enjoyed that. I loved
Yeah.
that smoky whiskey peat.
I like it for the novelty, but I don't think I could have more than one or two pieces of that.
Pretty much of any of these.
You guys?
They're all very intense.
I didn't think that one was as interesting as the aesthetic
Oh, okay.
that we tried.
Anyone?
Yeah, I know. It's
I think you get
Too
more
much
complexity
perfume.
through acidity in general. It creates more of an effervescence and longer aftertaste in general. But yeah, I mean,
It's kind of a bit with peaty whiskey still. It just blows your brain away in the first.
Well, if you eat it with whiskey, you know,
That's
it's
thing we'll consider, yeah.
Oh, actually, what should we be pairing?
Well,
Well,
chocolate
it
with?
goes well with cognac because that's
Oh,
the bottle I have in my apartment currently.
A bottle.
Literally, I've almost only got white spirits, I'm afraid.
Well, dark chocolate would go well with cognac, but I would also say the red wine. So it's much like when you're pairing red wine to something that has a very ample flavor already, like red meats and the like. So
But
yeah,
is
red
there a
wine would
certain
be.
type of chocolate that would go well with cognac or red
Well,
wine?
I would say generally anything that has higher percentages of cocoa and anything that has like more of a dull, earthy taste. So not something that's overly sweet because cognac already has certain sweetness. So you want to pair those two things. But yeah, this would actually be a very good pairing, cognac chocolate. So
yeah.
But of course, again, only dark chocolate, so not milky or anything that would kind of spoil the fun. Yeah, I'm very insistent on it. So okay, so we're gonna have 100% now. This is still
No way, really?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So
Very good
those
wines.
things
All right.
actually
Get ready,
exist.
viewers.
Yeah, get ready.
100%.
Who wants more apple juice?
Sam's mind is gonna be blown away by this.
Exactly.
this is the final one, yeah.
Yeah, this is like
the culmination.
Yeah, so this has no sugar whatsoever. It's just cocoa mass, meaning it's cocoa powder and cocoa butter. Now, Pralus also use some soy lecithin, so that's kind of controversial because in like great chocolates you would normally not have it. It adds to the smoothness of the experience, but chocolate purists tend to avoid it. So
But no orangutans died to produce this podcast.
not yet anyway. So yeah, this is just like a very.
Oh, we don't advise orangutans to
Exactly.
see that.
The orangutans watching right now, please tune
You
out.
can do something better for your lives right now.
So you will see that this particular one obviously lacks sugar. And
Why
it's
can
just
you
like-
see that it obviously lacks sugar?
Well, because it's going to be bitter.
Smell, first of all.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can. Right. So there's nothing in the actual physical what it looks like that.
No, it's not. Well, the thing is, Pralus, I always start, when we go to 100%, I always start with Pralus because they use a lot of cocoa butter. And so it doesn't taste as bitter as it can, right? So there's a lot of cocoa butter, and then it kind of offsets the bitterness of cocoa. But this is what actual cocoa feels like. So once you start tasting 100%, then you understand how sugar is important to open up the taste, right? Because it's not only if you use too much sugar, it will kill the taste, and you will only feel sweetness. But you need to use a certain amount to
That's
open up.
I actually
Yeah.
think that was
It's
pretty
just
good.
the concept of seasoning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Really? Explain that. Explain
Well,
what seasoning actually is.
well,
No
I mean,
idea.
if you're making dishes with spices, spicy, you need a balance between spice to be able to appreciate each thing, right? Like you find that in Thai cooking, you find it in many different things. You need different, sour, salty flavors to be able to appreciate it. If one is too much, it doesn't work. You need to add more in to adjust it.
But is the seasoning bringing out? Is the seasoning adding
They
a
work
flavour,
off
or
one
is
another.
is it bringing out something?
They work. It's about a relationship.
Balance, yeah.
All taste is about relationships.
I think now Western world of cooking, I season with pepper and salt. It's pretty boring. Whereas in Eastern culture, it's fish sauce, sesame oil.
Yeah, but it doesn't know any boundaries, right? Because
Yeah.
your taste doesn't know east and west. It just
No.
knows taste.
I'm saying that I think we
Yeah.
need to experiment a little bit more with our seasoning. 'Cause I'm a
Absolutely.
little
Thanks,
traditional with my.
For example, there's the difference between you find here in France that in general French people don't eat chili very
No.
often,
It's true.
but in Australia and in Western places, chili is very common, like actually very strong.
And chili and chocolate, to be honest, it's not a purist perspective, but I think it was.
Yeah, it works very well. Yeah.
What was that one? That was like
Bonam. So.
Yeah, don't grow hair on her.
it's like polyfill in my
Thanks,
mouth. Shit.
Well, you didn't prepare us for that. That's
Yeah.
That was a little under the radar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even
Certainly
even
on the radar right now.
Wow.
What is this one?
This is Bonam.
Mm.
That's.
This is the actual 100%, right? That's how.
That is not enjoyable.
No.
that is not good.
Oh,
No.
It's
Wow.
almost got like makes your palate
Sure,
first of all
that's
stick
fine.
to each other. And you
Feel
can't.
like mud, really.
Yeah.
Who wants an apple juice?
Very earthy. You're right. Very earthy.
Oh, give it time. Let it develop. Like there's actually
I'm
things
not letting
to
that one
appreciate.
hit adulthood.
Yeah.
No, I get a lot of earthy flavors, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they're
Earthy.
balanced enough against
It
the
just tastes like dirt.
almost
Really does.
charcoal.
Yeah, sugar.
There's a heavy dirt.
The sugar goes a long way. A
Mhm.
little chili here, a little lemon, a little
Yeah.
sourness.
Mhm.
These things bring out characteristics in lots of things that are important.
It is
And
actually
you're
better
not
with
talking
the
about a
apple
lot, right?
Mhm.
Just a little bit.
Well, speaking of spices, Anthony, we have a 99% here by Cluzel, so we're using this to finish the tasting.
Mm.
And they actually have some spices. So they have ginger, vanilla to liven up the flavor. Now, it used to be a lot harsher, like this 99% was much harsher than 100% from Aluso Bonat. They've toned it out in the last couple of years. So
Because of
There
that's
you go.
their philosophy. Yeah.
yeah, just the overall smoothness. So I'm giving you these small
Thank you.
portions just so you wouldn't complain of how incredibly harsh it is.
Slash stingy you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that.
Yes, also because I'm stingy. That's also the thing.
If anyone needs a pot plant to bath in, I've got several
I don't want
places,
to see it,
strategic
actually.
areas around the.
You
That's a
find it
very
tomorrow,
eloquent
Sam.
criticism there, Sam. No, but then try to go back to the beginning and like see how these smaller percentage bars actually profit from the sugar.
Mm.
So this is the actual taste of cocoa, right? And then this is what you accomplish by adding sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more cloying. It is. Yeah,
It's more
yeah.
enjoyable than the
Much better.
previous one.
it's better than the previous
With
one,
the
even with the 1% less cocoa.
The spices are very delicate. It's hard to pick up any specific one.
You can taste the ginger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ginger.
So Tom, how would you say that's different from the world of coffee? Like you can drink coffee without sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sugar completely dominates coffee, so it's more or less a cover-up for any defects. If the coffee producer's done his job, the roaster, the barista have done theirs, your coffee should have sweetness and balance, and there shouldn't be any over-dominant flavor that is disbalancing. When we analyze a bitterness, we don't want to go any further than a dark chocolate. So we often use that as our scale. If the bitterness surpasses dark cacao or chocolate, you would label it as a defect. But up until that, if it has balance with its other features, it can be very enjoyable. So we strictly disadvise, I'm not sure if that's English, strictly
I don't know.
disadvise, discourage. I really have lost my English. Using sugar, and at my new tasting bar at our roastery, 8 Rue Martel in the 10th.
We already have an article on our website on that.
We've got a fairly purist approach, no milk, no sugar.
Yeah, so it's different. See here in chocolate.
Can you bring your own milk?
I've set up a separate business at number 8 Rue Martel, selling milk.
It's roaring trade.
So, but you see how here it's necessary, right? So you can see.
Yeah, I do. I agree. It's the opposite of the.
I had a possibility of talking to different chocolate producers when I went and visited the Salon du Chocolat, and you would have actual producers who would contest the very existence of a 100% bar as something that's not supposed to be, because they say you need sugar, like that's the basic element of it, you know. And they say that like if you
would be the
you know,
basic element.
Probably be the
minor
chocolate,
element.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, when
Yeah,
you're
of
looking at
course.
70%.
Yeah, but they say
Not the
that's
best
okay.
with maths, but still, it seems like
If not basic, like the relevant, right? Like a very important aspect of it. And so some of them obviously would make 100% bars. Some of them would say that you're not supposed to do that. So I guess that's the way how it's different.
Yeah.
So what are your final impressions, guys and girl? I want to hear.
Guys and girl.
Guys and girl.
Emma, what do you reckon?
I like the ones that are more acidic.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Not very nuanced over here.
Much more. I mean, I think I prefer the Cluzel ones.
Okay.